Mike has been a CLMP volunteer for many years, and has been active on Gull Lake in Kalamazoo County, where he's going to be talking about some of those efforts today and combining action that he and his lake group have done. He's also very involved with the Michigan Lakes and Streams Association and has had multiple different uh, positions within their board. And so, Mike, it's all yours.
Hey, good to be with everybody today. And, sometimes I've been wandering around the lake and somebody will come up to me and say, "Hey, aren't you that weed guy?" And I go, "Well, sometimes, but I know they're curious. If they come up to me and say, 'Hey, you that weed guy?'" And so what I do is a lot of times I start with a little bit of a story. So like this picture here, doesn't this guy, Pope Pius IX, look like he's wondering about the quality of the Mediterranean Sea? His curiosity was instrumental in the development of a tool in 1865. Joe mentioned it earlier, but there's still a little bit more of a story to it. And we still use this tool today. So we called on a young Italian priest that was at the Vatican, and that guy was also a scientist. We asked him to figure out a way to monitor the Mediterranean Sea. So sometime later, in 1865, that young scientist joined the Pope for a ride on the Pope's yacht. And he started to lower a device into the water, a disc on a rope, and he yelled over to the Pope. He said, "Hey, Pope, I can see down 22 feet. He said it in Italian, but I can't do that today. The Pope's request for standardized water quality clarity measurements led to the creation of this device. And he looked down into the water and then at his scientific advisor and probably said, "Bless you, Father Angelo Secchi." And that's how the disc was named, after Father Angelo Secchi. And now you know the rest of the story. Sometimes a story is a great way to get the message across when we want to talk to somebody about what we've been doing out on the lake when we're monitoring. Sometimes it's a little story like that, and sometimes it's a picture. This is one of a zebra-covered bike that caught my eye at a museum up in the UP. And we've used it in social media and on our newsletter. This is another one. This is the biggest zebra mussel I ever saw. It came from 80 feet down, and it was a fisherman that approached me at our boat wash when I was working at it one day, and he said, "Wait till you see this." And he hands me this anchor line that he had snagged 80 feet down, and attached to that anchor line was this monster zebra mussel. I didn't know they were down 80 feet, but now I do. This is a picture that went into our newsletter and webpage, and a riparian noticed the picture. He called me in 2015 and said, "Mike, come over. There's a new weed at my dock, and I can't even get the boat in and out." And it was this early detection of starry stonewort that allowed for a rapid response. And today we have less starry stonewort than we did then. That was in 2016, I think. Our participation in the CLMP Aquatic Vegetation Survey a couple of years before that gave us some credibility as a source of information about the vegetation in the lake. And the resident didn't hesitate to call and invite me to come over and take a look. And that's what I did. Our newsletter helped us to share the information, such as this picture. And we're so lucky that riparian saw the picture. This is our newsletter. We use this to communicate lots of information to the residents on the lake. And there's lots of people that don't live on the lake, but are in the watershed, and some businesses too. We try to do it in an interesting way. We put the CLMP annual summaries in the newsletter, and we've had many articles pertaining to lake monitoring. Using the newsletter to educate readers was very helpful when we were trying to promote the need for a boat wash and also to get some support for that boat wash. And we were able to build one in 2017. We have about 3,000 guests each summer visiting the lake and using the boat launch and the boat wash. That gives us a tremendous amount of opportunities to talk to the visitors about lake monitoring. A lot of them are just waiting in line there. You wander up to them and they roll down their window and, how you doing today? And they're curious and listening. They don't have anything to do. You got a trapped audience anyway. Sometimes the fishermen enjoy seeing the lake temperature and the clarity reading and the thermocline level that we post on a whiteboard on the side of that blue shed that you see in the picture there. So as they come through, a lot of the fishermen check out where the thermocline is, and because they'll fish right in that level of the lake. We've also made use of windshields and printed out pages that we put on windshields about various things pertaining to the lake and the quality. And a lot of it is, the volunteer efforts on monitoring and the boat wash and so forth. And so some of them might get thrown away. Some of them might get read on the way home in the car. We were lucky enough to have one employee who worked our boat wash for quite a few years, and he loved to teach kids and adults as he staffed the boat wash. So he actually put an aquarium outside the boat wash next to that same blue shed, and he would fill it with the aquatic vegetation from the lake. And he even had a microscope there. You can kind of see it on the right-hand side of the table. While the boat was being washed by either our staff attendant or the owner of the boat, the other boaters could be looking at what was happening there. A lot of them were curious. And, if we can satisfy that curiosity, sometimes it leads to more curiosity and they learn more and more about lakes. We also use some signage at the boat wash, and we made this one up years ago because we have 2 invasive species in the lake that we want the boaters and the people that are enjoying the lake to know about. So this is the last sign they see before their boat rolls down the ramp and into the lake. And we train our boat wash volunteers to greet our visitors to the lake with a smile, and we treat them as our guests. It makes a big difference to greet them with a smile. And sometimes we greet them with more than a smile. These zebra mussel sunglasses I've worn many times when I'm over there at the boat wash, and I get lots of weird looks and comments, but they always generate curiosity and questions. And my next door neighbor happened to find these at the end of her dock one day. I think it was one of her grandkids swimming down at the bottom, but she gave them to me. And sometimes at the boat launch, it's a first-time boater, a guest of the lake, the boat park, and they might be seeing a zebra mussel for the very first time. Well, when they see it on the sunglasses, they can't help but notice. And, speaking of the boat wash, some of the people who live at our lake have never been to the boat launch or know that we can wash boats there. So we wanted to do something about that. So we took the boat wash to them. We invited the Landing Blitz team that goes out every summer and to our Lake Association annual summer party. This year it was at a golf course, and Joe and the team came over with their pressure washer and on the trailer, and I pulled my boat and brought it in there. And as all the guests to the annual meeting walked through the parking lot into the restaurant where we were having the meeting, they watched as we washed a boat. It was a different way to do it, but we had a couple hundred people see how a boat is washed and get a talk from Joe and the staff that were there about what they're doing and the need for it. We were very, very visible, and a lot of people got to see a boat wash for the first time, maybe the only time, but now they know about it. We try other ways to get noticed also. When we go out on the lake to monitor, we've got a banner that we put on the side of the boat, and you can see ours. And our lake association is called the Gull Lake Quality Organization. glqo.net is our website, and that's what we're doing out there. We're monitoring water quality. A dozen times a year, or during the summer, we're anchored at the center of the lake. And our big banner lets all boaters know what we're doing. It was seen by many as we scored 68 shorelines around the lake too. We talked to many riparians as we cruised by their docks. And with that sign, they didn't hesitate to ask some questions. And one boater invited us to come back and do a CLMP presentation at his beach association's annual meeting. So we did. And the next week, 50 people learned about the monitoring that we do on the lake. And they had no idea before we started talking to them. You know, looking at this picture, it looks like I had a couple of volunteers with me that day. And I always invite volunteers to go with me to monitor. Before I head out, I text all those who have told me that they want to go with me. Usually I get those names when we have the annual meeting, and I make an announcement. I say, if you want to go with me, give me your name, address, phone number, and so forth. So then I send a text out to the names I have on the list, and the first responder gets picked up at their dock. And we go out for a boat ride to the center of the lake where it's 110 feet deep, and we start doing the monitoring. I like to take a picture of the person that's with me, and I put it in our newsletter sometimes with my name and number, and I invite more people to join me also. It's grown to be a pretty good phone list. The lady who's with me there, Marcia Heath, lives 2 doors down from me. She's a frequent volunteer to go with me for the boat ride, especially when I'm doing dissolved oxygen and temperature. It takes a second person to collect the data. And she's a nice lady and always enjoys going. One of the things that I do on the left side of the picture there, you see the MiCorps fact sheet. Well, I always print out a bundle of those so that I can hand it to the volunteer that's joined me to go out to monitor the lake. Many times they've never been with me before. And so I hand them the fact sheet when we're all done. And I say, hey, if you want to know more about what we just did, if I haven't bored you to death with my lips flapping in your ear for the last hour, you can read these at your leisure at home, and it'll tell you all about what we did. And they take them home. I hope they get read. Maybe they just sit on a coffee table, but maybe at Christmas time they're still there and somebody else reads them. More information gets spread to more people, and maybe some more people get curious about how to protect our beautiful lakes. Every single person that I take out on the boat with me really seems to appreciate going. I mean, heck, it's a boat ride, and that's always fun. So this summer we're going to try something a little new, and we have people that move to the lake every year, new residents. So we're going to have a boat ride for those residents, maybe every Saturday from 10 to 12 or something like that, where I'll invite anybody who's new to the lake to go for a boat ride. And our focus will be on those new riparians, but I'll take anybody who is curious about the lake. And they'll see and learn about a variety of shorelines. And so they'll see shorelines such as this one as we're cruising around, and with all native plants there. And I'll explain, why native plants are important on those shorelines. We'll go by another shoreline that might be a vertical steel shoreline that's been modified with some riprap. And I'll point out why riprap is beneficial to the lake. I'll also show them how beautiful a lake shore can be when there's a growing natural buffer strip. Excuse me. Many people that move from the city out to a lake treat their yard on the lakeside just like they treated their front yard at their home in the city, and they mow right down to the shoreline. Well, when they can see a beautiful way to have a shoreline, such as in this picture, they may change their minds. Excuse me a sec. Whoops.
We can still see it and hear you there, Mike.
Okay. Does it have a single picture or does it have 26 pictures?
A single.
Oh, does it? Okay, good. So, okay, so that's not. Okay, now we're back in business.
Yep, looks good.
During that boat ride, we're sure to see this shoreline, which every time I go by, I just kind of drool and wish mine looked like this. Well, mine would fit on about to look like a postage stamp compared to this one. But this happened to be on the top scoring 1,000-foot section of our lake. And it's just a magnificent shoreline. So I'd point that out to the people on the boat ride. Here's another one. We had a riparian that had owned this shoreline, and right at the right side, you see where there's a parking lot, comes down to a rain garden. And he built that rain garden because it used to be that the rain came right down from a hill that was all blacktopped, and it came right down through these parking spots and right into the lake. So he said, this can't be. We got to do something different. He put a rain garden in and also posted a sign that described what was in the rain garden and the significance of putting it there and the benefits to the lake. So we get hundreds of boaters that walk by this garden every week. And as they head from their boat, which is usually just to the left at the dock, up the steps into the ice cream store. Another way we get the information out about how to protect the quality of the lake. And let's go. I wish that we had some of these signs around our lake, but we don't at this time. These are shoreline stewardship signs, and the people who have passed a survey about their lake shore and their lake property get to post one of these signs. And they are special shoreline properties that we wish everybody's shoreline property was like theirs. They're just super important to the quality of the lake. So shorelines. So in 2016, we scored our shores for the first time. And there we go. We have 68,000-foot shorelines around the lake. And it's no small task to score it. And it took us 23 fun boat rides and half the summer. Then somehow we had to let everybody know the scores. So we could have posted that in a newsletter, and that would have been, yeah, we probably did that. Kind of boring though, and hopefully everybody would read it, but we wouldn't know if they did. So we decided to gather the riparians at our annual summer party. Might as well have a party to get your grades. And we brought them all in at that same spot where we did the boat wash in the parking lot. That same spot where we had this party. About 200 people showed up, and we printed this huge picture of the lake with all the scores labeled for each shoreline. Boy, were people curious to see their score. And this is a kind of blew up a portion of that picture, and people would come over to the big easel that had this picture, and they're trying to find their house, and they're trying to figure out what's my score and all that, and they were very curious. And then, they'd find out they lived at section 18, and they had a score of what was their score? Of 37.5, not too good. And so their label was yellow. So, and we had green labels too. A green label was for the top third of the scores, a white label for the average middle third of the scores, and a yellow label was for the lowest scores. Well, some people were walking away from that picture a little bit discouraged, and some were just thrilled to death. But all of them left with a yellow, white, or green star stuck to their name label. And we let them go to the dinner table and a buffet line, and we let the competitive banter begin. And it was lots of fun. Lots of people pointing at each other saying, ha, 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 or, oh, that your shore's not that great. It was a good time. It was great fun, and it worked. It got people interested in their scores and curious about why one shoreline was better than another. We went on to a presentation at the dinner about how all these scores were calculated. And the nicest thing I heard was the next summer, I remember a lady coming up to me, and she says, I used to look at all the homes when I went for a slow cruise around the lake. And now I look at the shorelines. And so we really touched her curiosity, and she's more curious now. And we did the score of the shore again summer before last. And we noticed some significant changes, not enough to change our score for the lake, but there was lots more riprap in front of vertical shorelines. And there was lots of buffer zones of natural plants, and lots of people had stopped mowing their yard right down to the lake. I have no clue where I am on time, but I do know that I'm all done. So thanks for visiting. Come again, and now it's time for questions and comments.
Well, Mike, that's perfect timing. We have around 5 minutes for questions. So folks, feel free to put them in to the Q&A, and I'll get them to Mike here shortly. Mike, just to let you know, there was some interest in the new Gull Lake newsletter, and Joe found the link and had that sent to learn more about the Lake Association and the newsletter.
Oh, good, good.
So one question in here is, how are you treating invasive aquatic plants? Maybe that's a big question, I know, so you can just touch on that.
We are so lucky on our lake that it's 2,100 acres, and we only treat a couple of acres for invasives. And the invasives are the starry stormwort, which, as I said, it started out more than what we have today. So it shrunk down. And I think it's because of that early detection and the rapid response. Because I know we got it the first year it was there, and we treated it the first year it was there. But we have one company is the consultant that advises us on what we should do, and then we have another company that does the treatment, and the consultant kind of watches over the treatment service company. And the consultant monitors, does a survey every summer. Every other summer, they only look at where we've had past invasives, and then the other summer they look over the entire lake, and then we decide on how to treat after we get that survey done. Does that help?
Yeah, thanks. That was good. Um, there was some interest in that graphic that had the scoring for the shore. So the question is, could you show the graphic again that had the scoring for the shore, the score the for
That
score
picture?
shore explained? Yeah, the picture with then the like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I thought that was a pretty good one too, and I'd never seen it before till about an hour ago. So I thought I'd pop it in here, but it does explain, uh, we are looking at in the water, and in the very shallow water, and right at the shoreline, and then up onto the shore itself, and all those different. We count the number of houses in the docks, the type of seawall, as has been explained a little bit earlier by Joe. Um, you know, it's quite a process, and it doesn't take. I mean, this is a pretty big lake. Took us a long time, but it's interesting to find out what your shore is, and it's a great. The best part of it is that it was a great thing to have, a tool to use to help people understand about shorelines.